Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Florida is showing time and again why the much ballyhooed Black-Brown alliance failed to materialize. Everybody's heard about how there's been a number of books that have been banned there recently, and recently the news broke that there's a woman in Florida who demanded that Amanda Gorman's book be banned, among other books, such as a book about Langston Hughes and another about the ABCs of Black history. Now, when this story first came to light that it was one so-called concerned mother in Florida who did all this, everybody assumed that it was a white Anglo woman, but it turned out to be a white Latino. This is Daisy Salinas. She's a white Latino-Cuban immigrant who lives in Florida. I don't know if her family tree has any branches on it, but clearly her mind is one track only. This waste of space wanted to get some quickie attention, so she decided that she would demand books featuring Black people be banned from the elementary school in her area. You'll recall how I told you how these groups of so-called concerned parents that you see screaming at school boards are actually nothing more than right-wing funded crisis actors? They're GOP operatives who go to these places, yell for the camera so that they can get some attention because it's all part of how they're supposed to be giving a springboard to their political agenda. Well, here's a video of this Daisy Salinas woman engaging in one of these staged disturbances last July and being thrown out of a school board meeting because of it. Like some satanic traveling sideshow, these creeps have gone from school to school board, often into other school districts, so that they can whine about the fact that children are allowed to read books. Well, that certainly makes sense considering that a lot of these so-called concerned parents are themselves illiterate. But it's all staged, it's all astroturf, and that's why it's not catching on. Because it doesn't represent popular opinion. It only represents the last desperate, pathetic remnants of the unreconstructed South and their white adjacent accomplices, screeching in anguish as they fade into obscurity and oblivion. The main thing that this Salinas woman demanded be banned, however, was a poem by Amanda Gorman which had been turned into a children's book. The feeble claim made by this Salinas woman, which happened to also be upheld by the school board or whoever it was who was supposed to be making the decision, was that the book had indirect hate messages. Whatever that's supposed to be. The pages that she claimed had these hateful messages was on pages 12 and 13. Now, we've had right-wing operatives like Christopher Rufo claiming that the schools are teaching elementary kids that white people are inherently evil and they're teaching the white people are inherently oppressors. Well, I'm sure that's what these pages must say, right? Well, here's what those pages that this Salinas woman objected to said. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. And the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken but simply unfinished. Now, what was hateful about that? Nothing. Nothing at all. And that was the entire point. This is a demonstration for the white supremacists for them to show that we can ban a book just because a black person wrote it. Everyone knows that there's nothing objectionable here, and that was the point. Part of the censorship form that this Salinas woman filled out asked if she had reviewed all the material that she wanted to ban. She claimed that she had. Keep that in mind, you'll be hearing it again in a moment. She claimed that Gorman's poem and the ABCs of Black history was critical race theory. She didn't even bother to try to explain how it was critical race theory, but of course this isn't about facts, it's about white racist feelings. This is just white supremacists doing their little bit of trolling, and to them, this qualifies as some sort of victory. This is a win in their book, as they see it. It's a pathetic move meant to delight the brain-dead white right, but it accomplishes nothing. Well, it did do one thing, though. Amanda Gorman's book sales have predictably spiked. More children are reading this book, not less, thanks to the attention this Salinas woman brought to it. And it's not the kids who are buying these books, it's their parents who are intrigued because they heard that the book got banned. See, that's reality. But of course, as Christopher Rufo said, the entire point of all of this right-wing banning and such that they've been doing, is to try to drive the left nuts. At least that's what they're claiming. That's political psychological masturbation. It doesn't move the needle, and it doesn't actually get you anything, but this is what happens when you have a failed filmmaker calling himself being a political consultant. Because I don't see the left going crazy, but the white right is certifiably insane now. This is the political equivalent of hustling backwards. Daily Salinas is part of what you call the incompetent operative class. When people are sheltered from failure, it conditions them to think that all the stupid stuff they do is brilliant, that it works simply because they haven't been allowed to fail. But this is the reality. Now, when this woman pulled her little stunt, people started looking into her and her past, and they immediately found that she's a full-fledged white supremacist. Her social media is like an overflowing toilet, with her social media showing her hanging out with white supremacist extremists like the Proud Boys. And on her Facebook page, she reposted an anti-Semitic meme about the Elders of Zion. So her little bit of racial trolling blew up in her stupid face immediately. She wound up having to do an interview with the Jewish Telegraphic Agency in which she claimed that, "Oh, I love Jewish people." Oh, I'm sure, can't you feel the love? But she also said that English isn't her first language, and that she hadn't even read the anti-Semitic post that she shared on her social media. Now, does anyone actually believe she didn't read it? I don't. But she wasn't through pleading illiteracy yet. She also claimed that she hadn't actually read Amanda Gorman's poem either. Quote, "People have to read for me because I'm not an expert. I'm not a reader. I'm not a book person. I'm a mom involved in my children's education." Yeah, she's just not involved in the reading part of it, or the writing part, or the education part. But by her own admission, she never actually read the books that she demanded be banned. She just objected to them simply because. Now, obviously, she's lying, but for the sake of argument, let's say that her lies are plausible. We would have to believe that she's an illiterate who demanded books be banned without having read them. That means someone else had to tell her to object to them. Remember, as she said, she hadn't actually read them. Someone else had to read them to her. So this is an admission that she's just a worthless meat puppet for the white right. She literally, no pun intended, has no clue what she's looking at, but she claimed to object to pages in a book that she couldn't even read for reasons that she couldn't even explain. It's her opinion that the pages in question violate the school curriculum. Now, you want to lay odds that she's ever read the school curriculum? But of course, this isn't about rules. This is about I'm white and I say so. From the phony school board disturbances to the books they ban without reading, this is all fake. It's all staged. This is what the white right think tanks like the Manhattan Institute came up with. They put on this political theater and then have Fox News claim to cover it, quote unquote, when they're just fanning the flames for this phony political operation. And then GOP politicians who live in gerrymandered states where they don't have to fear being voted out for their stupidity, they pass laws so the white right can ban books and feel like they've got some power. This Salinas woman is not an activist. She's a brain-dead zombie. She does what her racist masters tell her to do. Just worthless. This puke is not some concerned parent. Because no parent cares to censor books. Most of them are overjoyed if their kids are reading something at all. This book banning doesn't reflect reality. Now, while it will take a while for the normal citizens and parents out there to finally have enough of this, in the meanwhile, it's not going to gain the white right anything. This is all racial fascism, and while it may give these mental defectives a little sugar rush, it doesn't accomplish anything. They can only play this game in the People's Republic of Florida and a few other deep red enclaves, but that's it. Though that's not to say that their stunts are harmless. They're meant to lay the groundwork for what they hope will be open state violence against black people and white supremacist creeps like this Salinas woman to do the same. Now, as you see, she likes to pal around with terrorists, criminals, and convicts. She's been hanging out with convicted terrorist Enrique Tarrio, the former leader of the Proud Boys and current prison inmate. This woman cavorts with terrorists. Why is she not under police investigation? She spreads anti-Semitic memes on the internet. Where's Ari Emanuel at? Where's Bill Maher at? To go ahead and tell us about how dangerous this kind of thing is. They're nowhere to be seen. Totally silent. And you know who else is silent? I made a video a few weeks ago talking about anti-black racism in the Hispanic community. And of course, I got the usual empty denials in my comments. But that's not a rebuttal. Simply saying that's not true doesn't change the fact that it is true. There's a very pervasive and consistent strand of anti-black racism in Latino culture. This is very well documented. It's not even up for debate. For a while now, when the black grassroots accurately used phrases like white Latino, you had the white supremacists who got angry about that. But that's only because they get scared when someone points out the dirt that they do. This Salinas woman spreading the anti-Semitic Elders of Zion meme, that might come as a surprise to people, but it shouldn't. You had that recent mass murderer in Texas. That guy was also running around, had the Nazi tattoos, the whole nine. See, a lot of people have made this assumption that Hispanics consider themselves to be people of color simply because the dominant society says, well, we took you guys out of the white category 80 years ago and we call you people of color, so that's what you consider yourselves, right? Nope. People like Salinas, people like that mass killer in Texas, people like Enrique Tarrio, people like Nick Fuentes, Stuart Rhodes, Stephen Carrillo. He was one of the so-called Boogaloo Boys who murdered a federal officer in California. And this Salinas woman, this is the reason the Black-Brown Alliance failed to materialize. Black people have been saying black and brown since the beginning of time, and yet it's been a one-way street. It's been an invitation that's only gone one way. And I've noticed that there hasn't been much in the way of objection from Hispanic figures to this Salinas woman. It's just like with George Zimmerman and Geronimo Yanez, who killed Philandro Castile. The only people raising any objections are black people. Salinas and the white right's phony outrage campaign is going to fail. Yes, they'll do some damage in the meanwhile, but ultimately what they really want is to gain power. That's what this is really about. The white right thinks that getting headlines and getting support are the same thing, and they're not. That's why Ron DeSantis' numbers have cratered already. People know who he is. It's not as if he needs to introduce himself. America's well familiar with who Ron DeSantis is, and they associate him with book bannings and other censorious nonsense. These white supremacists only have the same play in their playbook. They figure that if they attack black people, especially if they do it openly, then there's going to be this groundswell of disaffected white people who are going to rise up, as if they're not already at the top. And they're going to be galvanized by attacking black people. And what's going to happen is there's going to be this huge number of folks who are going to be coming and attacking the black community. And this is going to add to the white supremacist power. As they see it, apparently the vast masses of white people in America are just waiting for some sawed-off half-wit white supremacist to do something against black people. And all of a sudden you're going to have all of white America say, yeah, we've been a bunch of die-hard racists all along. Let's go get those niggers. That's what the white right thinks is going to happen. That's the reason why, whether it be Dylan Roof or Ron DeSantis, they all have the exact same maneuver. We're going to do something, attack the black community openly, and this is going to lead to a huge avalanche of white support because we know they feel the same way we do. They just keep doing it over and over again, and they can't understand why it hasn't worked. See, this is what happens when you have rich white millionaires and billionaires who have almost no contact with the outside world, and these are the people coming up with your political strategies for you. They're the ones who bankroll these asinine plans, and they don't go anywhere because the people who fund them, they don't actually know what's going on in the world. They know they hate black people, but that's about as much as they know. These anti-black racists think that making their racism a bureaucratic process means that they've got camouflage, that they're going to be hidden, people won't know who they are, and hence they're going to be striking from behind cover. But they're wrong. See, the reason that people like this Salinas woman want to try to make sure that they do this stuff anonymously is because they know exactly how dirty and racist they are. That's the entire point of trying to make sure that this is done as anonymously as possible. Because as soon as you find out who these clowns are, it's like, okay, now we got the racists here, all right. You see, racists like Daley Salinas are illiterate, but the black people that she attacks are not, and neither are these white disaffected voters who they're hoping to fool. Everyone sees through these bigots' cheap stunts. Everyone understands the con game going on here. And when it comes to censorship, people are more than capable of reading between the lines. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Frederick Richburg, Joseph Isaiah, Sakina Collins, Philander Bryant, and Rowan Wings. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.